Dwight come up first, how we going?
Yes, we're gonna have Dwight come up since he's here, we can go through, but I'll just summarize it. On the first page of the main document, the item number 3 is the health insurance cost, and we've got a 5% increase worked into this budget for health insurance costs, total of $24,000, and then by fund is listed there. So that increase is worked into the budget right now. The current cap is $704, and if we elect to leave the cap the same and not increase the cap, that would amount to a $35 increase per month for the employees, $422 annually. If the city decided to raise the cap to the $739, it would be a $24,000 increase that we would have to absorb annually. So with that, then we'll turn it over to Dwight, and we can dig further into the health insurance options and the increase that we have.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. Mike's always been good, especially when it comes to all the financial data. Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, you may or may not have had, I'm sure you have had, where you've seen some of the claims data for the year from Blue Cross and Blue Shield.
I haven't seen it. Well, and it says in your email here that you're going to send them a separate claims report to a different email. I have not got that.
And I did.
I've got
See it.
He did send it, I'll give it to y'all.
I did, which I don't have a problem sharing that with y'all right now. It would be something that
Yeah, that
would definitely.
workman's comp increase is directly related to that, I'm assuming.
Well, and one of the things that I do want to say is this, is that is only 6 people. That totals about $3 million.
6 individuals?
Okay, so based, and they're pretty accurate on knowing what they've already spent about $1.2 million on those 6 individuals. And they're fairly accurate. They know that it's going to come in right at about $3 million by the time they finish that. Okay, so for us to have only gotten a 4.9% increase is phenomenal based on the amount of premium we pay and the amount of claims we've had. But like what Mike had disclosed to you, we have the numbers. You've probably seen, the current rate would increase up to $739.49 if we stayed with that one plan only. There are 2 other options that we currently have with Blue Cross and Blue Shield that would one of them would actually bring it down just below what we're currently paying rate-wise. That's plan 5773. The total is $693.85. And then there's one more that's $673.33. Before we get further on that, I did want to bring something up to you for consideration. Okay. I met with Mr. Anderson and Ms. Pierce yesterday. And I'll make sure I'm okay to discuss the option that we have. Okay. In that particular meeting, we identified right now we have 3 individuals that are 65 years or older right now. Okay. You can't force someone to take a Medicare supplement, but you could offer that Medicare supplement, okay, and the prescription Part D, and save the city about $400 per month per employee, okay? So if you take just those 3, that's $14,580 savings just for 3 individuals. By January, we will have 2 more individuals that would be eligible for that Medicare supplement and the Part D prescription plan. So therefore, you know, without changing anything, except for possibly getting those individuals that are Medicare eligible, if they were to agree to go on to that Medicare supplement, you could literally save almost the total increase.
How do those compare to our current plan, the
Well,
Medicare plans?
Actually, they're better for someone that is, you know, comparatively, because when you have a Medicare supplement, you have a $0 deductible. So basically what you do is on the Medicare portion, which is the medical portion, for any services that you have, you just present them with your card, and you don't pay a copay, you don't have a bill, okay? The Part D prescription works very similar to ours, with an exception of one thing. Once you reach a certain dollar limit, you enter what's called the donut hole, and then your cost goes up during the donut hole, and as soon as you get out of the donut hole, you go back down to a reduced cost again. But
Take to get out of the donut hole.
well, it depends on, it's about and I don't know the exact dollar amount, but roughly about $1,800 is what the donut hole is. But all the other costs are relatively about the same, you know. So, but if somebody's going to the doctor, you know, 12 times a year, whether it be specialists, whether it be, they're going to save money, you know, because they're not paying those copays anymore.
You mean we wouldn't have the Blue Cross Blue Shield anymore?
No,
Yes, we have.
you could go to a Blue Cross and Blue Shield supplement,
Not the one that everybody else has, still.
but you wouldn't have the identical coverage that the city does because you would have a separate policy. But there's a plus advantage to once you turn 65, if you don't take a Medicare supplement at the age of 65, you get penalized from then on, meaning you have to pay a higher premium from that point on.
Yeah, we use Grace. Use Grace. I did.
Yeah.
I didn't do it until I was almost 66.
Yeah.
And they told me I was within the use range of mine would not go up.
Yeah.
But I only got Part A.
Part A,
That's all I got.
okay. Oh, you're Medicare. You're Medicare. Yeah, I'm talking about a supplement. A supplement. Yeah. You know, because basically what the supplement does is it pays everything that Medicare doesn't. And that's the beauty of it, because you end up, you know, and it's basically the bottom line is I would personally rather sit down with the individuals that are age 65 to go over their medicines. Okay, number one, it's required. You can't just sign somebody up, but you have to do what's called a scope of appointment and so forth and so on. There's legality and regulations to that. But if it was ever going to be detrimental to someone to make that switch, then I would advise them so. I don't think that it would be in, you know, if I knew it was not in their best interest to move at that point in time, then I would say don't do it. But it's just a recommendation that if we could at least offer that, and if y'all could set possibly a dollar parameter to say $300 a month, you know, could be the maximum payout for the Medicare supplement and the prescription cost. You know, the Part D prescription. And it really is not going to, I've never seen it where it's ever been that expensive. But, you know, I don't think we want to come back and say, oh, this one's $15 more or something. So if you could establish a cap, you know, just like you have on the health insurance side.
Are we allowed to have two separate caps for our employees?
I wouldn't see why not.
Absolutely, this would be a little different situation. I think the criteria on this would be 65 years of age, Medicare eligible. Dwight could come up with some
Are
criteria.
we setting ourselves up for discrimination suit based on age, because now we're offering maybe a better plan don't see anything wrong with having that option available. It's not gonna hurt us financially to offer it.
Yeah, I think the bottom line is you couldn't force anybody to do it. You could do it as a either or. They can have that option. So I think you would find as long as you did it as an option, you definitely could force it.
I mean, with health insurance in the past, we haven't had many options. You're on our plan. I think it's kind of a no-brainer. If they do choose that option, it saves the city money, and if they don't, that's a change. So I don't see why we shouldn't offer that.
Yeah, I'm fine with doing that too.
Okay. All right. Well, during, then, with your permission, during the open enrollment, I will meet individually with those individuals that are already 65 and those that are approaching 65 to go over the information and so that we can come to, reach a good decision for them.
Is there any way before our next budget meeting that we could kind of just pull those 3 employees that are eligible right now and see whether they'd be interested or not? Well, there's one of them right here.
I mean, I that would be fine with me. When is the next budget meeting?
Haven't said it.
Whatever y'all want.
We'd give it.
Okay, but I mean, realistically, yes, there's no reason why I can't meet with each one of those, at my office, and that way I can pull all the resources that would be necessary for them to make an informed decision.
Yeah, I'd like that for next meeting. Good.
Okay, because that'll at least give us an idea if anybody's interested in that.
Is this something we got to vote on Tuesday or?
Well, this is what I would suggest on this. At some point before the budget's actually finalized, we can work with Mr. Van Lair, we can come up with a little policy that you can get approved at a commission. That would be my okay.
Let's talk about the other options. You mentioned some other dollar figures with some other options. I haven't seen anything
Okay.
yet, but comparing plans to the one that we currently are.
Basically, what it boils down to, Commissioner Lowry, the next, I should say, the one that's closest to what we currently have, it increases the deductible $500 over what it is currently right now. The savings is about $46 in savings per employee from what it currently, from what the renewal is gonna be.
So in the 690s.
Yeah,
It's on page 2,
693.
right there.
693 is the total there, 85. There's one slight difference in the copay for the physicians, and it goes from 65, what the current plan is, up to 85. Yeah, no, that's in there. So that's, and just so you know too, we're waiting right now to see if any other carrier is gonna offer us coverage. I'm gonna be realistic. With the amount of claims that we have with 6, I think they'll run from us. But before we had actually applied for all this back in June.
Yeah.
But none of them would even look at it until they saw what our renewal rates were. And we didn't get our renewal rates until the 3rd of August. So it's been out for about a week.
White, is this plan 5773? With the $2,500?
Yes.
Yes.
We're going to find ways to cut.
Currently at what, 704. And my dream last year was to offer some options. My thoughts are, we offer to pay 100% of option 1, and if they want to keep their current plan, it's only an extra $40 a month, so $20 a check. Is that the correct way that I'm reading it?
Yeah, it was actually a little bit less than that. I think it was in the $18 range because you have
18 per pay period is what
Yeah.
it would be.
And I know each year it seems like nickel and diamond, but when you add 10 years together and you have a 60% increase, what happens when that figure reaches $1,200 a month for insurance? Then what? I said it last year, we need to draw the line at some point. I don't want to take away anything right now. We'll allow that plan to exist, but I think, an extra, for an office visit, an extra $20 is not that much. So, my opinion would be that we would stick with same rate, not the same plan. And I would go with the 693 plan unless there's other options out there in that range. But,
And hopefully, we would have some additional options by the next budget meeting, if, outside of Blue Cross and Blue Shield, just to at least examine, but like I said, I wanna be real too, and I don't really think that's gonna be a possibility.
Yeah, I'm the same way. But are you still thinking about offering them the current plan as well? As an option?
Absolutely, it would just be an extra $20 out of the paycheck. If they wanted to keep the same plan, but really their plan, their benefits are the same, it's just their deductible's 500 higher.
Yeah.
And their copay goes up to $20.
We'll pay all of option one and then they pay the remaining.
If they choose to keep their plan, because you got a lot of people that don't go to the doctor, don't use it, and they're costing us the same amount of money that people that use it frequently.
I'm fine with
That's been my opinion for 2 years now, I'll stick with that.
Anybody have any question why at this time?
So we're saying we'd offer both options to the employee.
Correct. But we'll pay 100% of option one.
So based on that, if they were to stay with that plan there, what would happen is, Mike, your cap would be reduced from 704 to 693.85, is what your cap would be reduced down to.
So again, we need some sort of informal poll of employees to try to budget on that. We're not gonna know until open enrollment who's gonna elect what policy.
I mean, I think
Well,
we
you would
budget
budget
high-end,
you would budget 693.85 for everybody that, yeah, and then the people that elected for the other one,
It comes out of
they
the
would
check.
come, they would be a
Okay.
payroll deduction is the way it
Okay,
was.
that makes sense.
Any other questions on the health insurance?
Thank you for bringing options.
Oh, you're welcome. On a positive note, largely, through Florida League of Cities, every one of our costs for property, general liability, and automobile went down. Okay? The only faction that did not go down was our work comp. And the bottom line is we went from a 0.85 mod to a 1.25 mod because of loss. I mean, basically, that's where it's at. So, and basically what happens is every year you drop off the fourth year, or I should say, it doesn't count the current year, but it's the previous 3 years that calculates the mod. So it's always a moving target, so to speak. The unfortunate thing is we picked up into a period where we had heavy losses.
Was the savings really realized in those first 4 categories equal to what our workers' comp went up? Or
No.
overall, are we bad?
Well, we actually ended up going up overall $12,000.
So it's not a full 25,000 that went up.
Correct.
for workers' comp,
Correct.
But 12,000 overall for insurance.
Overall, yeah. So compared, it could have been a whole lot worse, and hopefully, which we did review the current losses, and the current losses are not tremendously bad, but that's always subject to whatever happens on the work side. But Florida League did us a good job because, if it hadn't have been for the work comp, we'd have, if we'd have stayed at the 0.85, we'd have had a $25,000. Well, actually, we'd have had a $37,000 savings.
We'll stay at that mod too for a little while.
For the whole year, it'll recalculate again this time next year.
How many claims we got out right now?
Open,
One that I know of.
it was 1 or 2. I think it was a couple
So
that we actually had.
our
that
numbers
are
are probably
open
gonna
right
get
now.
worse over the 3-year average next year.
So they're major claims. I just asked to make sure they're working with the claims.
Oh, I will say they are very, the league is excessive hands-on when it comes to claims handling. I will give them credit where credit's due. You know, the unfortunate thing is this. We all are aware of the Supreme Court that just recently ruled that some of the work comp savings were basically that were tied to attorney's fees were unconstitutional. So we can probably expect about a 17% increase. Now and hopefully we can have it remedied by this next session, okay? To circumvent some of that. I'm actually on the task force for the state to work on that. But we won't know that until January.
He's exactly right. I was talking with one of our workers' comp attorneys the other day on one of the cases, and we were talking about, you know, our numbers and our exposure, and he said, well, count on at least 19%, because of exactly what Mr. Van Lee was saying. So it's right on the money.
Any other questions?
Appreciate it.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dwayne.
Just don't want me to go see you, right?
So based on that discussion, then my directive would be to adjust the cap to $693.85
That's what we
in the
know.
budget. So we'd be reducing the cap. That would amount to about $10 reduction, about 550 employees, so about $500 a month. So $6,000 to $7,000 potential savings in that.
Look at that, guys, 20 minutes, $6,000.
But the employees will see their deductible raised from $2,000 to $2,500, and their co-pays from $65 to $85. With
If
that
they
plan.
elect that option.
Right. And if they'd like to retain the plan they have now, they'd be looking at approximately $40 a month out of pocket. To stay with the current plan, yeah. Excellent. All right, so if we'll go back to the main summary of the budget dated 7/15/2016, the first line item is the ad valorem taxes, and you can see the millage from 2015-16, and then the 16-17 estimate, we show about a $24,000 reduction in revenue from ad valorem based on the current millage. We worked in a $0.5 mil and a $1 mil to see what those increases would be over last year's budget. A $0.5 mil equates to $113,000, and $1 mil would equate to $275,000 over last year's budgeted amount. So that's the ad valorem. Current budget, there's no change in the ad valorem. We're just working on that deficit of $24,000. So outstanding and the key issues, as we just discussed, the ad valorem is number one. Number two was the state retirement costs. We saw a small increase in the city's cost for retirement, and that amounted to about $5,400, and that's spread across the funds. The employees, as you know, several years ago saw a 3% rate that the state passed it on to employees. They haven't changed that rate for employees, so it's still 3% cost to employees for their retirement. We've just discussed the health insurance, so then that'll change to a reduction or savings based on option one between $6,000 and $7,000. Again, item 4 becomes moot because of that change. Item 5 is the Florida League of Insurance. That shows 0 on that draft, but we did get revised numbers from the league, and we talked about the workers' comp rates going up, and that amounts to about a $12,000 increase. And I've worked that into the budget, not the one you have before you, but I have worked it into the budget. That was a little bit offset. It actually only amounted to about $8,000 when I ran the calculation, because I calculate the workers' comp based on the salaries and not based on the invoicing from Florida League. I've calculated on the salaries, and since I had already worked in a rate increase in salaries, it offset that increase. Item 6 is the employee COLA. worked into this budget. We currently have a 2% COLA across the board for employees. That amounts to $48,600, and you can see its impact across each fund there. Item 7 is merit raises. Department heads have submitted raise requests. Staff is going through that with department heads, and we've adjusted those merit raises to $1 per employee, with a few exceptions. And those merit raises equate to about $25,700.
One quick question, are we, the city paid bi-monthly, or is it bi-weekly? Is it 26 pay
By
period?
week 26.
26.
26. We pay 26 pay periods.
And the merit raise we're talking about would involve 11 employees.
I was just looking at the numbers, and really that COLA is wiped out if they choose to keep the current health insurance plan. But it wouldn't be a hardship, their checks wouldn't be any lower. if they
Yeah,
decided.
the 2% raise on our low end, our new hires equates to about $500 a year. So that would cover the increased cost to stay the plan. And that's on our new hires. So then, of course,
It would more than cover it for.
more than cover it for most of our employees, yes.
Okay.
And then-
Let me back up just a minute.
Yes, any questions, yes.
The 24,000 deficit, Mr. Caldwell,
The $24,000 estimate, the deficit is just on the ad valorem calculation based on our property taxes. So that's ad valorem revenues that we received last year were $1,014,210, and our estimate that we're gonna receive this year is $989,479. So that deficit is just the ad valorem deficit. You wanna look at our overall deficit for the general fund. If you go back 9 pages, it's actually A1 through A8, and then it starts over at page 1. Go to page 1. Page-
General fund is $89,000 deficit right now.
It's page 1.
Second page.
A1.
A7.
Keep going.
Right after A8.
Keep going, A7.
There it is, right there. That's the one we're trying to whittle down.
So page 1 is the current, that shows the current deficit in the general fund of $89,399.
And what is the 24,000?
That's just the.
That's part of
ad
that
valorem
89,000.
revenues.
That's how much less taxes we
Yeah.
got.
Yeah, if you go to page 2, the very first item, that's the $24,000. That's our revenues there. The first line item is the ad valorem tax revenue, and it shows the $24,000 reduction in that particular revenue, which is the main driver for our funding for the general fund, is that particular line item. So that's why we had it up front. All right, so if you go back to the first page, A1, and that shows you then the staffing changes by department. And I said there was a couple of exceptions to the $1 merit raise. You can see we have one new position for an inmate supervisor, and we have higher rate increases for a construction work crew. And then at the bottom, we have one promotion in the wastewater plant. But the rest of those merit increases are the $1 rate.
But if you look at that, the wastewater plant, I mean, we lost a chief operator, promoted another one. Really, that number, it's not hurting us by 35. I'm sure he's
No,
done
we
as
haven't.
much as a 40-year veteran.
We did not have a chief operator.
Oh, I got you.
Now, what we did do was, in order to try
This
to
isn't
give,
your position. This is another.
correct, this is when we did, we promoted Kevin within, we did not backfill this position. We moved over Chad Mack, who was helping out with with the water side is what he's doing now.
Okay.
So
That was
Kevin,
my-
right now, it's falling on Kevin's shoulders. What we tried to do is to see if we can make it this year without that position, and try to free up some money in the wastewater fund to do some wastewater projects on there, is what we've done. So we're hoping we can make it without that position. So right now, we don't have it in there to be backfilled.
Yeah, if you look at the detail on Kevin's salaries and wages, it's actually reduced because of that not backfilling, even with this promotion to the one employee.
I noticed that in a lot of these departments, there was reductions. Some of it kind of confusing, but I guess we'll wait.
Yes,
till
we
get
can
those
wait to
pages.
that, and I can explain those to you as we go through.
Okay.
I guess I don't know if John wants to comment, or if you have any questions about the new position in the construction work crew. I think we've all discussed the work crew concept, and we'd like to make that permanent in this budget and have those 3 employees dedicated to.
Permanent by job assignment, not permanent to the employee. You said if they're doing a certain job, we're gonna give them more money.
Well, that's what we're doing now.
Okay, now you want to make this permanent? for
Well,
these
that's what
employees?
we discussed, the board discussed that evening, so that's why we put it in there. So it's certainly on the table for discussion as to how the board wants to handle that, for this upcoming budget.
But we have worked that into the budget, that they would be full-time construction crew on staff. Yes,
The whole year, not
Yes.
just when
Not just for specific
and that's what's
jobs.
worked into this current budget, but as John said, certainly it's up for discussion.
I mean, the concept behind it was to have that, that department, if you will, that crew that could do, wastewater and stormwater and water, whatever came up,
Sure.
that was the idea behind it, so.
And
Well,
as
how
we,
is the, morale with the other people, about these people now getting paid extra when they're not doing this stuff? I mean, any morale change, or? You heard
No, I mean,
anybody
I
talk about
haven't, I haven't noticed any per se with the construction, but, there's always, you've always got those 1 or 2 guys. I don't care what organization you're in.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure
Wanna
one
get
of
by,
the
so
more money gonna be doing it. The other guy that don't ever do anything.
Right. Usually that's the first guy that wants more money.
Yeah.
The guy that's not doing anything.
Well, I mean, the 2 big numbers in there, of course, there's the cost of living and then there's the inmate supervisor. Is that a vacant position now, or is somebody leaving?
No, it's not a vacant position. Jim and I discussed this, and Mike, a month or so ago, a couple months ago. What we've got is, Public Works in the city, let's just say that, the city gets 2 work squads, a day. We have a correctional officer that comes out from the forestry camp. Then we have an employee, that we employ as an inmate supervisor. And, we really haven't had that great of a track record. Just, hiring them, putting them off the street. So the ideology behind that was to put something out there that hopefully Gulf County's huge as it relates to correctional officers. To capture guys either wanting to get out of the prison system, maybe just got out of the prison system, but somebody that knows what's going on as it relates to inmates. Because here's my fear. We've had this happen several times in the past where we've had to pull guys out for one reason or another. And if it continues down that path, my biggest fear is the prison is not getting them. So to me, when I brought this up to Jim, was to put forth the effort to say, look, let's get the folks that are trained in this, that do this day in, day out, and understand how those inmates operate, to watch that work squad for us, so we know we're not going to lose it.
And the
It's
prison
in-
requires us to have a city inmate supervisor along with a corrections officer.
No,
2 different crews.
you got different classifications in place to inmates. So the correctional officers here out in prison have a different classification system. From the perspective, we have the lower class. But bottom line is guys are still inmates, they're going to manipulate the different. And that's been our problem. So, you can take a guy that spends 2.5 days in a certification class, put him with him, and I think the end result is probably what we've seen. Or you can have a guy that, has been state certified and knowing what they, you probably live through it, that's our hope. You get that guy that's just done with the system that wants to get out, but fully understands it. So that's how this lands in you guys' budget.
And we're highly dependent on these inmate crews to get the job done. We
Save
can't
us money.
afford it. We cannot afford to do it without these inmate crews. I'll be honest with y'all.
I agree.
So we have to be very cautious when we're handling these inmate crews. So we're trying to minimize our risk, that if we get a more qualified person on there, then we feel more comfortable. And I believe the prison system will be too, because these guys are checked in and checked out every day. They have to go through the vans, they have to go through each personnel when they come through. And if things are introduced into that system, guess what? They come back to us. And they could pull those inmates if they wanted to from.
It's a very
It's a
vital,
fact of life every day we have to deal with.
very, very vital to our operations.
So we felt that was important, and we worked in a $15 an hour rate. And we thought it'd be attractive because that person could then stay in the Florida retirement system, coming from the prison system. So we were hoping we'd be able to attract the qualified.
And albeit, it would not be in a high risk category.
What are the hours increase?
Well, we leave to pick them up at 6:30 in the morning. We take them back, between 3 and 3:15. So, checkout takes longer than drop off, just because you've got, 25, 30 people waiting to pick up that.
But we've got one person that's doing that right now, though, correct?
We have one guy that's doing it. I keep 4 others certified on staff, as redundancy and fallbacks. But again, the idea is to have a guy that fully understands.
And as he said, we have had to rotate people out of that position for various reasons, and we just wanted to make sure it was secure and we secure those inmates that we need to get work done.
I'm on board if we can do it.
And again, I'm just going through here, looking at the big numbers.
Yeah.
But, if that's something that I know it saves the city money, we don't have to hire extra staff because we have inmates doing work. That was just one of the numbers that stuck out.
Yeah, we certainly could get by with that, but we thought it's such a priority that it makes sense to try to head off any potential problem before it came, because they are so important to us. Any further questions on staffing changes or salaries? Okay, well then the next line item there is revenue generators. It's not a lot there. It's the boat rent fees, which we are seeing a reduction, and we knew we would because of the scallops. We did 21,000 last year, 27,000 last year.
What have we done this year?
Well, this year it's at 16, but we still had a full month of main revenue production. The marina agreement is still in place. The lease on this building with Coastal, Emerald Coast, that's a significant reduction. It's about $18,000 less than what we had been getting for this facility. The Waste Pro transfer station and the Verizon lease of the water tower. So those are just some leases and agreements that we have out there that do produce revenue.
CST tax, communication services tax, sales tax, and AD tax, ad valorem taxes are your big movers. And they're flat. We just have not seen an increase. We were hoping to see an increase in sales tax. We thought business was picking up in Port St. Joe, but we've not seen the numbers come across from the Department of Revenue, so.
We've been disappointed in the sales tax numbers, no question. But we see it's quite just like we thought we'd see an increase in our ad valorem.
Absolutely, I thought that.
We thought we were rock bottom, but it's still creeping down.
Is West Pro will continue leasing that station from us since they've got their other one built?
I haven't seen anything.
Seen your
to the
contracts, as
contrary.
long as your contract's in place, you're still good, maybe,
Yeah.
for a couple of years.
And water tower Verizon, where's that at? Which tower is that?
That is all the stuff that's hanging on your 10th Street tank. All the equipment that you see up there, that's where that is.
All right, the next is a new tag item we added just for the road bond money in the Long Avenue project. So we know we've got $1,050,000 in road bond money. And so we broke that out between the paving, the water, and the sewer lines. And then in discussions at the workshop, John made it clear that 220,000 that we have in for water line replacement is a rough number. We're not really sure what that number is. It could be higher than that. But we use that number as a basis to try to come up to what we had calculated as a total engineering for that project of 1.669 is what we estimated. So we tried to do what we could in the budget to pull as much capital dollars available in the budget to try to come up with as much money as we could throw towards that project. So currently in this budget, we have the $1,050,000 road bond money, and then we have an additional $450,000 in capital revenue from the wastewater fund that we feel we can plug into this project, which would give us about 1.5 million that we think in our current budget that we can dedicate to this project. And we did that by pulling out our depreciation in the wastewater fund. We had $180,000 in depreciation. We talked to our accountants and our auditors. We said that depreciation money is for future projects, and we said, can we pull that out now and go ahead and do a project with it now? And they were fine with that. It makes sense that that money is for sewer line expansion and growth, and we're going to spend it on sewer line repair and maintenance, and they felt comfortable with us doing that. They certainly weren't in favor of us doing that every year, but that we should continue to depreciate and prepare for our long-term expenses. But this one time, because we had this $1 million pot, we thought it prudent to try to get this project done based on everyone else is a major need in our community.
So am I reading this right? We're about 160K short from the engineer's estimate to
The,
complete
the initial rough engineering estimate of the project based on,
Well, what, yeah, you're
Steel road.
160, right, plus the unknown with the, water line, plus your engineering fee.
Now, on the sewer side of this is replacement?
No, that was based on the CIPP or something like that.
Repair.
So this is a repair, not
Yes,
replacement.
it's not full, it was not a full-fledged replacement.
right, so, yes.
Now, also too, what we did was we generalized a lot of the repair money. Last year, we put a big chunk in for Cape Sewer. So instead of saying Cape Sewer money, we more generalized repair and maintenance of sewer. Same thing on the water side, repair and maintenance of water. So kind of give you some flexibility in this budget as to not one specific project in water or one specific in sewer. That way kind of freed up some money in it for you.
Out of curiosity, what do we have in this budget for Cape Sewer?
That's what we were,
That's what we pulled out.
we just
Okay, you
combined
pulled
it.
it out, okay.
It's $450,000 in sewer line repair and replacement.
Repair and
In total, and how we elect to use it will depend on whether or not we're able to secure $300,000 from Northwest Florida Regional Management
Right.
towards this paving project or any other source. Then we can shift that $450 we have in the budget to Cape.
I just heard.
We did a lot more generalization. That way you've got that money at your disposal on there throughout the year, like Mike said, that, okay, if you decide to pull the trigger on the Long Avenue project, or if you decide to do a sewer rehab on Avenue D, you got more of a generalization instead of putting it specifically in one.
And I had heard that there's a good chance that, we could possibly get money out of North Florida more easily for Cape Sewer. That's a big scare for them.
Well, there's one thing too we need to look at. I was thinking about Cape Sewer, thinking about that. There was a legislative appropriation money that was supposed to be for Jones Homestead too. I need to look at that. That was a joint venture between the city and the county where we both applied for that money. That's something we need to look at too, to figure out how and when that's coming in.
So we
We
have a lot.
scratched a lot together to make.
We did.
Absolutely.
And the other big mover was that Kevin didn't have a lot of capital items, or he had capital items that we could put off. So we really stripped his capital out of his budget, and that helped us to build that $450,000.
And a reduction of an employee. Right now, we don't have that employee either. We may need that next year, but this year we don't have it in there.
Thank you.
Which Kevin will argue he does need that employee and doesn't want to see that position removed completely. But, we're trying to hit a target here.
Is Chad working full-time with you, he's back and forth?
He's back and forth.
He's full-time in the water fund, but he's, in order to have an office, all the files and things that Lynn was doing is over at his shop. But he's dedicated to his salary's coming out of the water fund.
So he hasn't been able to really work on wastewater. I get him once a quarter or so as a dedicated day. We have those possible.
What's the yearly salary of somebody in that position?
Is it 40?
He's per hour, so he's
I think he's at 1750, somewhere around in there, I think.
You only have them 8 days a year now, I mean, can you justify full-time? I mean, is that position something that's needed every day?
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of
You're doing
the extra stuff, and there's things that I'm not doing that I'm postponed that I'd like to, we really need to get back to. So, yeah, we're kind of scrambling.
Yeah, that was 55,000 loaded. With benefits. So, and so that's the summary where we have in this budget right now towards road bond, that road Long Avenue project. We did not strip $100,000 in depreciation out of the water fund. But that is in the water fund. It is possible we could strip it, but we did not take that money out of the water fund. We only took the depreciation out of wastewater. So 1.5 is a good start towards trying to get to where we need to do that project, we felt like. So page A2 is a summary of the general fund capital items, those items that are in the budget and those items that are not in the budget. First item's a police department vehicle, $14,000 in the budget, but we also have $13,000 in grant dollars to put with that 14, so it's a total of 27 for a new vehicle for the police department. So fire department has the radio antennas, which we're all aware of, that the police department had to just switch over. And so we have $17,000 in the police department, and the fire department to upgrade their radios and antenna system.
We did apply for a grant too on this. We've not had success with that type of grant before, but we did apply for a grant to see if we could get some funding for it.
And then the continue escrow for the fire engine, another $22,000.
That's every year we do that.
Every year, we're at 88, so this is put us at 100.
What's called?
We had a quote of $250,000, was it, Jim? Did you have
That's
a
all right,
quote?
well, Mr.
Did we have a quote on a fire engine, on a used one?
We did, there was a demo that I'd put in y'all's, we've been escrowing money every year to try to put some back, but yes, on the demo with 20-something thousand miles, it was $250,000.
So we felt like we should continue to escrow and continue to look for fire truck. Streets and highways, we have a SCOP grant for Garrison Avenue, $8,000 to repair the bridge at 16th Street, Ford F-150 pickup truck, and some SCAG mowers for the inmate crews. And those are in the budget. And then we've added fireworks into the budget.
We'll have a mini raise.
It isn't gonna happen this year, Bill. It's,
Won't happen next year, I mean,
the money that's raised this year, this is the 4th of July Events Committee. They're putting together the event, and any money that's raised at this 4th of July, or any money raised for it, goes to the city for fireworks for the following year. So it's not gonna kick in right away, it'll be the next year that the money kicks in.
So we'll have to pay for this year's event and then hopefully fund the next one.
The last couple of years, we've had to come up with money from somewhere, so we thought it would be smart to at least go ahead and put some in there, because every year we've had to look around and find it somewhere.
We had a Ford inmate van in the budget for the inmate work crew, and we moved that to solid waste. So we do have that in the budget, it's just in solid waste. Some of the items we discussed last year, bunker rake is not in the budget. The 10th Street scoreboard, not in the budget. Batting cages, lighting poles for 10th Street, not in the budget. The AC unit for the stack house, and a large cooler for the stack house. All those items are not in the budget. There's 2 large grants that are in the budget, and you see there the $500,000 for Centennial, and the Lighthouse grant, $125,000. And those are 2 grants that impacted the general fund greatly because we had to come up with $62,500 in matching funds. So that's a significant impact to the general fund since we saw a reduction in our revenues. So those are important grants to us, and certainly one option to fix the current deficit would be to try to find that 62,500 in matching funds from another source. Obviously BP or some other source would be one way to help offset the deficit. But currently, those expenses are worked in the budget and are part of the $80,000 deficit. And then all the rest of these items, we know we have a lot of general fund facilities, we have a lot of recreation facilities, we just don't have the money we used to put in them, so we have a lot of items there that we know we've all talked about. Pickleball court, fountains, resurfacing tennis courts, and all of these items, the gazebo, that we just don't have the funds.
Which gazebo?
The one, Frank Pig Park at the boat ramp.
Why can't we use boat ramp money?
We can. We can.
Can,
If you so elect, then we certainly can use boat ramp.
see how much it would cost, that's what the money's for.
Yeah, we currently have 16,000, but I haven't made the transfer for the last 2 months, so it's probably closer to 20,000 in boat ramp funds. But I'll have to make those transfers. So that's a breakdown of all the capital expenses for the general fund. Any questions on that?
And the likely roof repair, she's not having any problem right now anyway, John, have you heard any?
No,
That's
no,
the second half.
you know, we-
second portion.
Correct, it's just the right. That's what it is.
Yeah, the actual building itself has been replaced, Mayor. It's just, isn't that the walkway outside?
Yeah, it's the open air, you know.
I- Our biggest concern on that, not in the budget list, is, or for me, is the AC unit at the Stackhouse. We've been riding that thing for a long time, and it's still holding up, you know. So,
I mean, I'd say if that's a $2,000 item, if that does break, if and when, or
Seven,
when it breaks,
seven.
coolers do, okay. I mean, if that breaks, I would be comfortable with using the BP money to do something like
we
that.
have to fix it, certainly, you know, but because we were strained in the general fund, we stripped out everything that we
I
had.
agree.
The 1 year we take it out, it's
It's-
not the one that's gonna break.
All right, so that, if no other questions on capital for the general fund, we'll go to A3. And that's contingency dollars, and you can see there really isn't any. And the main
We street
concern there is streets and highways. And $5,000 for John, if he has a major problem, is nothing, you know. Have you had one this year, John?
No. No, it's just,
But again, if we have a major problem, we'll find the money in the resources that we have. But ideally, we'd like to have more contingency dollars in all of our departments.
As you can see, for the whole city, we stripped this down, so that's the risk we take by putting this money in the project. Yes, we need to repair our utilities, but we take that risk by getting rid of this contingency money, that if something breaks.
And then we've discussed most of these items in grant projects, and so I just summarized them again here. We do have the FERDAP grant, which $50,000 for Forest Park South. We did get the certificate for commencement, so we'll start that project here. We may be able to finish it in this fiscal year or in the beginning of next year, at least get started anyway. And then the boat ramp, 806, you know about that project as well. Any other grant dollars that we've?
The only one I can think about, we need to go back and look at is that legislative appropriation. I think there's $250,000 that was dedicated for, Jones Homestead. We need to look at that and see how that's, what year that's.
Was that for sewer?
Yes.
Garrison pavement is copper.
Yes, I should have put that in there, yeah, that's yours. I'll add that.
And those plans have been sent on to FDOT for final approval, so you've got to bid. So in the next couple of meetings, you'll be going to have to bid for that.
And then the last item there in general fund is the non-departmental, and that reflects no change over last year. We've received requests for funding from some of these agencies, but not all of them. And the ones we did receive asked for the same amount as last year.
Yeah, something that really bothers me a little bit, is you look at the Humane Society, and you look at the senior citizens center. I'm moving on. But
Yeah, it's 5,000 for the Humane Society and 8,000 for the Senior Citizen Center.
I'm just saying, you know, we're looking at a library that would help educate our young children, and yet we're looking at Humane Society. And I love animals, I have 2 animals myself, but still, giving 5,000 to animals and 3,000 to, my youth at library, just, somehow that hits me the wrong way. What's more important, human life or animal life? To me, human life. I mean, I realize my animal's an animal. It's not part of my family, even though I love it. It's not part of my family. It's an animal. It's not push to shove. We spend a bunch of money on that animal and save it. It's part of that animal. Good thing. That's just me. Then again, when I look at this in the library, and I don't know why we think give 4 to each. I'm sure if you do all the animal rights people will come after me.
Well, Mayor, one thing, you're exactly right, I understand what you're saying, but one thing is, we're not in the animal control business. Right now, we have, the county actually helps us out with animal control, and Humane Society helps with that boarding. In Bay County, I remember being involved in that, and it was, they charged us per animal. So every time an animal was picked up in our city, they would come out there, and, yes, sir, we would be charged by that for housing that animal, so I don't know if that would ever come into play or not, but, it can get quite expensive to house these animals, so that's one thing we've been very fortunate
I completely understand what you're talking about. I don't want us to have to deal with it.
Yeah, I know.
And we're getting a good deal. The county has an animal control officer. And that group down there, they do a great job.
Right.
We certainly, as we go through this budget and we talk about ways to solve the deficit, we might be able to find us an extra $1,000 there. In the library.
And, you know, just going out the early learning coalition. Anyway,
I'll review the letters we've received and try to summarize that category a little bit, and we can keep that in our back of our minds that we want to look at revisit that.
And like I noticed on one, the Chamber of Commerce wasn't in there, but on page 19 of the actual budget, we do have them in there, $500. Just not on your one sheet, I think.
Okay, that must be, we've been talking about that $500.
Well, we got a request for $500. We're trying to figure that out because they came before the board one time before, requesting a fee waiver for the rental of the building, and we decided that, okay, we would charge $100, but at the same time, we'd exchange a check for $100 for a donation to the chamber. But we got a request the other day for $500 for the welcome packages on there. We were trying to figure that out, if that was something that was approved by the board or not, so we were trying to do that research.
So you originally came to that meeting asking for $1,500, and I actually think Commissioner Thursby motioned to give them $500, and we agreed on that, and then it was a couple meetings later, when she came in and wanted the fee waiver, and I said, absolutely not, it's for a profit event, so, we traded. Yeah.
So I'll add that $500 in there. That must be where that came in and why I put it in the budget, because we had discussed it.
I remember they asked me for 1,500.
We shot it down to $500.
So I'll correct that on the grants. Thank you, Commissioner. On that. So that's the general fund highlights, and we certainly can go through the detail, but we try to give you the summary of everything to try to make it a little more manageable. But we thought at this point, any questions on the general fund? Just take it.
That's the only one that's not balanced.
Yeah.
Are we done?
Well, how do we balance it, right? I guess we can discuss
That's the
that.
kind of things we gotta think about. We had a couple of things we discussed. One being you have, in the general fund, the big move was a lot of grants which required match money. So, A, do you try to pull some of the BP money to balance it on there for those? Number 2, sell the property. You have the 2 lots that you still haven't sold at the old hospital site. You talked about this building. I got an email today from a guy that's looking at Woodward Avenue, and we've got a request on Commerce Park. So these are all pieces of property. So one idea would be the sale of whatever the first 2 or 3 pieces of property goes, use that portion on there to balance it there.
I mean, this building itself is completely balanced. What we've got.
We're 90-ish off right now.
Right, so, yeah, currently in the budget, we do anticipate selling, the 2 lots at the hospital, and those expenses are currently allocated to go back into BP in
None
the
of the other
budget.
properties in the
none of the other properties are in the budget
None of
as far as a
that's in.
revenue stream right now. So that's certainly an easy way we could balance it.
But you've got bites on all of them, except for the two lots of the hospital, right? There's a potential of $300,000 right there.
But we
People are
do,
wanting to buy property right now, so you can do it.
but we do need some more discussion as a board about establishing a fund and trying to earmark those dollars. I think we've spoken about that.
Yeah, and that's one thing I'd like to, the board agrees on trying to earmark some of those funds to possibly buy other property later on in the future, whether it's us to do something like a parking lot off Reed for employees to park and things like that, maybe a bathroom downtown, something, things like that. Like
I
to
know
just discuss it later on.
PSJRA board had discussed a little bit about that, if the city would be willing to purchase the lot. You always want to talk about across the chamber, that the PSJRA could possibly use their money to bring it up.
Certainly, the other item of discussion was to escalate the purchase on the fire engine would be one item. But with the grant dollars, our other big focus was the Centennial Building, but if we're able to secure these grant dollars, then that won't be an issue if we can secure that.
Well, and here's something that I've been doing for a while. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of grant all over this budget. And this, if I'm wrong, the city does not have a full-time grant writer. Is that right? What would be wrong with us doing a contracted employee, just a 1099? You get 10% of the grants that you get, and then we come up with a wish list. Just set that person free. Let them go crazy. Under our direction, here's what we're looking for. It wouldn't cost the city. Well, you tell me. Would it cost the city a dime to do that?
Well, I don't know, some we could look at, we've never had a grant writer on staff that I'm aware of.
Starlight, yeah.
Not one that we paid.
Right, not exclusive.
Not,
grants.
no, it was,
Grants.
it was
Right,
several
That would
things.
take that burden off her.
absolutely.
I know.
Why don't we take a look at what other communities are doing and see if we can't come up with some ideas about that possibility and work some numbers.
I mean, I think it'd be a great job. I mean, there's lots of grants out there. It's just, it should be it could be someone's full-time job to go after.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, I'm all for that. I mean, especially what's happened in the CDBG deal.
Exactly, what's happening with the CDBG, you need somebody that's, some of them are specialized, and that was kind of specialized there, you may need to kind of look for a grant writer that's specialized in that type of area, but yeah, you need to start looking.
I mean, especially for the fire department, the police department, those gotta have grants out there for public safety. Or sewer, these are things that are.
There's book after book of grants, so you just go through and you start looking at it, so Donnie asked, okay, which one do I apply?
Well, we've got the internet now.
Yeah.
Well then, with that being said, the next item is the enterprise funds. Do we want to continue or do we want to?
What time is it?
I would,
20 minutes.
All right, page A4 is the water fund. And we discussed most of this already, the salary increases, the merit raises, the state retirement, the health insurance, the liabilities, and then the water fund utility rate increase. So that's there. The current cash balances on the trust funds, about $450,000 that we currently have in our impact fee trust funds. And then the summary there of the capital expenses for the water fund. The road bond money, SRF funding, the CDBG grant we're not sure about. And then we just picked some number on Northwest Florida, for Northport St. Joe, we picked $200,000. We're not sure what we're gonna be able to get.
we actually applied for, I think, 313,000, we don't know what we're gonna get with Northwest Florida, but we did put in an application first of the week.
And all of those are washes, revenue expenses, they don't impact your budget one way or the
It
other.
just scares me that we're counting on this CDBG grant. It's, I guess probably less than 50/50, I don't know.
That's why we went ahead and applied with this Northwest Florida money. You also have too, the state revolving fund money, now that is grant/loan, but you still have some money you could tap into there.
But I'm pretty sure that I speak for everyone up here. grant or not, we've gotta do this project this year.
Yes,
And
sir,
so
that's,
we need to have a plan B, C, D, and E.
that's why we've laid that out.
And that's another reason we fall back into the construction crew. If this falls through, then we've got a team that can attack that.
But it makes me nervous, because I'm about to, ask this board how they feel about taking $62,000 out of BP and moving it to cover the costs of the two grants, knowing that we may or may not get them, we may not have to use that money, but I don't want to touch that BP money until I know that we have a solution for North St. Joseph water issues.
And we also, we have about 5 or 6 different options on there. There's also the money, we haven't touched that contingency money. We said, like we said earlier, we got $100,000 in there contingency money that's still sitting out there. We didn't dedicate toward repair and maintenance, that's still sitting out.
That wasn't screwed over too long.
Yes, sir.
When will we have an answer on that?
The CDBG?
Yeah.
I was told that they're gonna, that right now what they done is they have not agreed to approve it by no means, but what they're gonna do is they're gonna send some folks out here to take a look at it. That's the last thing I heard, so still an outside shot.
And if we secure that grant, then that frees up some of that money that we have earmarked to the road bond to Cape, the Cape project, and frees up John's crew then to work, the water project or okay.
If we have no more property sales, right now, where's BP sitting at, non-committed funds?
I didn't bring those numbers.
Isn't it around 200 a month?
I think that's
I
about
think it's
right.
around 200 because we were sitting right at 400 and then we gave 200 to the Port Authority. So
I mean, for the sake of getting a little bit closer to balancing this thing, how do you guys feel about earmarking that 62K? We may or may not get the grant for the Centennial Building.
Well, we currently have 55,000 of that is profit from the sale of the hospital lots. So based on our expenses and the revenue currently on the sale of those properties, we do have about that much in profit based on that land
If
purchase.
those two sell.
So everything
No,
else.
no, what we've already
Right now.
sold.
Right now, okay.
Yeah,
So everything else we sell now is profit,
yes,
plus the 50.
yes.
So, I mean, I would be comfortable, just for the sake of saying we made some progress today, let's get $62,000 closer to balancing the general fund. I'm comfortable with moving that BP money. It is for, for tourism. It's for the Centennial Building. I think we can justify that. I would say go ahead. That'll get you that much closer.
We can certainly list it as our top priority to fix the budget and when we get everybody together.
Sure.
But yeah, it certainly makes sense to us as well. Then you can see the capital items that do impact the budget is the water plant, repair the St. Joe tank, surface water tank, continuing to escrow for membrane replacement. I think this will get us to $100,000 in escrow funds, at $40,000.
Larry, how much did you tell me the other day it's gonna cost?
Well, if you did just one sale, it was 86,000.
86,000.
we got a proposal I did put in
Yeah,
your
there's a
box
deal
too.
on the table.
There is a proposal that, as a matter of fact, the gentleman that's coming down to meet with us on Monday, is it Monday?
Monday will be there. Yeah, it's, but it comes down to me, it's not an option. This is something that you should be paying like a monthly mortgage. Filters do go bad, and we need to start planning ahead. The bad news is, well, the good news, all we gotta do is put an additional 40 in this budget to pay for that first 144 membranes. But going forward, this company wants to set us up on a plan. We pay a little bit every month, so it's not a big hit every year. Here comes the bad news, it's a little over $7,000 a month.
Yeah, 90,000 for the next 4 years after that.
And then we'll have all of our filters replaced over the next 6 years?
And of course, you got the photograph.
No, it's necessary.
It's necessary.
Now, we got the filters were guaranteed for 10 years, is that correct?
Correct.
So
You
we're
get a
in
little
year
bit of
7,
rebate.
yeah, so you're in what, they were
We're
put in
over,
2009,
actually over a 7-year period.
7 years.
So that escrow, 40,000 gets us to 100. It's got a vehicle, in there, four-wheel drive, and then 75,000 for renovate clarifiers 1 through 4.
That's just for one, that's not for 4, that's for one.
That's just clarifier 1.
Only one,
That's for one clarifier. Total renovation,
is it needed now?
yes, sir, it does. I'll show you.
And then two small items that aren't in the budget, lawnmower and telemetry for the, sites,
That's, we put that back, right?
That ain't gonna happen.
That don't matter.
And And then again, the contingency dollars are low, for a big water plant and water distribution, but we've done what we've had to do to balance the budget. And then we list the grant projects there in water.
It's kind of a juggling act, gentlemen. We're trying to wrap up this distribution system. We've done about 80% of it. We still got about 20% we gotta do, so we still got some major expenses in distribution. But at the same time, we can't let the water plant crumble or depreciate too bad underneath it. So routine maintenance, you gotta stay on top of it. So it's some big expenses.
So any questions on the water fund or the capital items there?
My comment would be just, going forward, just the clarifiers, for example, we know eventually they're gonna need renovation. I would love for us to know, hey, this tank every so many years is gonna need maintained. What's the cost every 10 years? Divide that out over monthly. And let's see what it actually costs per month to run this water plant. And let's start putting that money back. I know it's a dream, but we need to know what it costs to run our city. And that's one of the departments that we're seeing right now. Filters all of a sudden pop up, you can replace them all. Tanks, I can understand the natural disaster hitting or something that's not just normal wear and tear. But normal wear and tear, we should be budgeting for that. And depreciation is depreciation. That money should be put into an escrow account to repair this stuff. The only thing I don't like about coming to city meetings is people raising their hands saying, I need.
Yeah, we definitely agree, we need to start planning for our future and start looking 5, 10, 15 years down the road and start escrowing for that. We've done a good job with that with the fire engine and here with the membranes, we've been saving, and we need to continue that philosophy of putting aside.
And I'm under no misconception that we have the money to do that. I would like to know what that number is, and then we can all come up with a way to, it would be a lot easier to us to approach the citizens with an ad valorem tax increase if we said, this is why. And right now, I don't know, I can't tell them it costs this much to operate the city every month. Because
Over $600,000 a month.
Probably.
Yeah. So that's the general fund and the water fund, we do have the water and the wastewater and the solid waste balanced. We're certainly open to any needs or priorities that you have for us, certainly relay those to us. And I guess the next thing would be to discuss about the next meeting.
We'll have a next.
Well, we had been meeting on Tuesdays, but it's certainly open to
Whatever day works
whatever.
good for y'all.
Well, did we get enough accomplished today where the next meeting shouldn't be, or the next one's gonna be worse?
Well, it depends on how much we can fill in the other two commissions.
Depends on how much red ink y'all have in the pens. But no, we covered the big stuff today.
I mean, we got ourselves about $70,000 closer with insurance and just moving some EP money over. Can you guys try to find some more?
Yes,
before we come back?
sure,
Sure.
we can certainly work to see if we can make it happen. So, we have a 6 o'clock meeting next Tuesday.
Are we talking about lunchtime or evening?
Whatever works for y'all.
Next week, are you talking about?
Week after, 23rd.
That way you have an odd week, yeah, 'cause I don't know if y'all wanna come at lunch, miss your lunch, and then we come right back for supper time, so.
Right.
12 o'clock on the 23rd?
Okay.
Sounds good. And we'll have a revised numbers and we'll try to get those out to you next week.
The good news is, we're not out of kilter too bad. We're disappointed our ad valorem tax numbers have not come up, our sales tax numbers have not come up, but it's doable.
We're close.